I live on 40 acres of pasture land just outside what used to be considered the edge of town. When I bought it, people laughed and said nothing would ever come this far. They said I was wasting money on empty land, but empty was exactly what I wanted. This land is zoned agricultural and has been actively used for cattle grazing for years. This is not scenic filler, this is working land. Every inch of it has a purpose. Every fence post was placed intentionally, every gate aligned with movement patterns. My cattle know the land better than I do. They move along paths worn into the soil over seasons. They know where water stays cool in summer, where shade stretches longest in the afternoon, and where to shelter when storms roll in. Ranching teaches patience. You learn that nothing happens instantly. Grass takes time, animals take time, land takes time. For years life was quiet, then development began creeping closer. First came survey trucks parked along the road, then heavy machinery grading fields, then paved streets, sidewalks, streetlights, and eventually rows of identical houses, each one close enough to hear the neighbor sneeze. With the houses came an HOA. I kept my distance. I did not attend meetings. I did not complain about noise, lights, or traffic. I respected the boundary between suburban life and agricultural life. I believed that boundary went both ways. I was wrong. One morning, just after sunrise, I heard sounds that did not belong on pasture land: engines idling, metal clanking, radios crackling, voices carrying across open grass. I climbed into my truck and followed the sound toward the far end of my property. What I saw made my stomach tighten. Bright survey stakes formed a straight, unnatural line cutting directly across the pasture. Heavy equipment sat idle. Concrete forms stacked nearby. Workers moved back and forth, checking measurements. They were building a bike path, not near the fence line, not near the road, but straight through the center of my pasture, exactly where cattle naturally move between water and shade. I approached the foreman calmly and told him he was standing on private property, active cattle land. He looked at his clipboard and said the HOA approved the project, and according to their maps, the land was unused, open space and used. I pointed toward my cattle grazing less than 100 yards away, showed him fence lines, property markers, and pulled up my deed on my phone. He nodded politely, said he would notify management. They kept working. By sunset, grass was stripped, fencing damaged, and exposed rebar left where cattle roam. A natural movement corridor that took years to establish was destroyed in hours. I contacted the HOA. Emails, phone calls, certified letters documenting everything. Days passed without response. When they finally replied, the tone was dismissive. They said the board had approved the bike path and that development brings change. They suggested I adapt and relocate cattle farther away from the path. They genuinely believed proximity meant entitlement. Within days, concrete was poured, signs were installed, and residents began using the path. Bikes, strollers, dogs, children, all cutting directly through active cattle. Landy installed no trespassing signs. They disappeared. I repaired fencing. It was cut again. I documented every incident. Residents treated the pasture like a park, wandering off the path, approaching cattle, taking photos, letting dogs roam free, children screaming, chasing birds. Complaints followed. Cows smell. Flies are annoying. The bells on bikes scare animals. The HOA suggested I reduce my herd. That suggestion told me everything. They believed my livelihood was optional. Then came the incident. Everyone pretended surprise. Theme: a cyclist wearing headphones sped down the path, startled a cow. The animal reacted instinctively, charged briefly, and stopped. The cyclist crashed. Panic spread immediately. No serious injury, but enough fear to change the narrative. That HOA blamed me. They sent a formal letter accusing my cattle of being dangerous, demanding removal from the area, threatening fines and legal action. I responded with zoning laws, agricultural exemptions, property deeds, and a cease and desist. They responded by installing livestock warning signs on my land. That was the moment. Patience and I hired a land use attorney experienced in agricultural disputes. Surveyors confirmed what I already knew. The bike path was built illegally on my land without easement, permission, or compensation. The HOA relied on outdated maps and assumptions. My attorney issued a formal demand: immediate closure, restoration, and damages. The HOA stalled, arguing community benefit and increased property values. The judge did not care. An emergency injunction shut the bike path down. Barricades went up. Residents were furious. During discovery, internal emails surfaced showing board members new boundaries were questionable but proceeded anyway. Cost savings mattered more than legality. Insurance denied coverage. The court ordered full removal, restoration, fencing, reseeding, compensation for lost grazing. Legal fees and damages exceeding six-figure. Special assessments followed. Residents revolted. Board members resigned. Lawsuits erupted. The bike path was jackhammered out piece by piece. For weeks the pasture looked scarred, but alive. Grass returned. Fencing was rebuilt. Cattle resumed normal patterns. Silence came back, the kind of silence you forget exists. Months later, a new HOA board sent a formal apology, acknowledging fault and recognizing permanent boundaries. I framed that letter not out of pride, but as a reminder: pasture land is not decoration. Working land is not public space. Cattle do not follow HOA bylaws today. The development still stands, the houses remain, but the bike path exists only in memory. Every morning I watch cattle move calmly across grass undisturbed, and remember that patience backed by law always outlasts entitlement. After the court issued the injunction and the bike path was officially closed, most people assumed the situation was over, but entitlement rarely ends quietly, especially when pride and money are involved. Even with barricades up, residents kept trying to use the path. They stepped around tape, dragged bikes over barriers, and ignored warning notices. Some claimed they had lived there long enough to earn access. Others said the HOA would reopen it soon, so rules no longer mattered. Documented everything: late night trespassing, early morning joggers, parents lifting strollers over barriers, people acting as if concrete magically erased property lines. The HOA sent out mixed messages. One email said the path was closed, another hinted they were exploring options. That confusion fueled more violations. I received anonymous notes in my mailbox telling me I was ruining the neighborhood. Someone left a bag of trash at my gate. Another time someone opened a pasture gate and let cattle wander closer to the road. That incident forced me to act immediately. Cattle near traffic is not a joke. I spent hours moving them back, securing fencing, and calling the sheriff to file a report. That report mattered later. When removal finally began, the mood shifted from annoyance to panic. Jackhammers arrived, concrete cracked, trucks hauled debris away, and suddenly residents realized the bike path was not coming back. Meetings became hostile. Homeowners demanded answers. Board members deflected blame. Someone mentioned my name and the room erupted. I was accused of being selfish, anti-community, anti-family. No one mentioned trespassing. No one mentioned zoning. No one mentioned that none of this land ever belonged to them. Special assessments were announced to cover legal costs and removal fees. Homeowners who never used the bike path were handed bills larger than their monthly dues. That is when the lawsuit started. Residents sued the HOA. The HOA tried to countersue me. Those cases went nowhere. Discovery was brutal. Nails showed board members discussed skipping a professional survey to save money. One message said rural landowners never fight back. Another joked that cows would move eventually. That message was read aloud in court. Silence followed. Insurance companies dropped coverage. Board members resigned one by one. The president moved away quietly. During restoration, crews worked carefully, reseeding pasture, repairing soil, replacing fencing, restoring water access. It took months before the land looked right again. Cattle are resilient, but land remembers. I adjusted grazing schedules, gave grass time to heal, watched movement patterns slowly return. The silence came back gradually. No bike bells, no shouting, no dogs running loose, just wind, grass, and cattle. Months later, a new HOA board reached out, formally, respectful, cautious, careful. They acknowledged the damage, admitted fault, and requested a permanent boundary agreement. We signed it. That agreement included clear survey markers, recorded easements, and strict penalties for future encroachment. They learned documentation matters. The community changed after that. Fewer assumptions, more caution, less entitlement. The bike path became a cautionary story told to new residents. As for me, I went back to work. Ranching does not pause for drama. Animals still need care, fences still need repair, seasons still change, but every time I passed that restored strip of land, I remember how quickly peace can be disturbed and how slowly it must be rebuilt.